first lap incident between Max and Lewis. You'll recall that Lewis thought he'd won the pole on the Friday, but lost it on the Saturday, so it was Max on the pole, and Max made a good start away from the line. Lewis made a good start too. They were very close. In fact, Lewis was kind of alongside Max as they went into turn one, and Max ran really wide on the outside, kept the line, kept the lead. So out of turns 1, 2 and 3, they were side by side. As they got towards the back straight, Max immediately moved to the left, thinking, right, there's no way Lewis Hamilton is going to do anything down the inside, under braking for the tight left at the end here. And Lewis just pulled up alongside Max, and they're inches apart. This is just amazing. This is Ayrton Senna versus Alan Prost or Nigel Mansell. This is amazing stuff. And Max just brakes as late as he possibly can into the tight left. Lewis is there, eventually has to give Max a little bit of room. But it was breathtaking stuff. And I imagine at this point, Lewis is probably quite angry. He's probably thinking, some of that's a bit vicious from Max. He is a bit wild, you know, and you've got to put it into the context of Lewis here, because here's a guy that's won everything. He's looking to set records, of course, with another world championship, but he's won everything, he's done everything, he is who he is, and yet his hunger and his aggression was just astonishing. He said after the race, you know, I think in sort of explaining from his perspective what happened with Max at the next corner, you know, Max is a really aggressive driver. Well, Lewis, I'm sorry, I'm not being critical here, but Lewis, you are the ultimate aggressive driver. After where you've come from and where you are now,
damn
to be
right,
that aggressive and that competitive is just amazing, breathtaking, as I say. Anyway, they go into Copse, and Max again moves to the right, thinking, yeah, Lewis is all over me here, but no way he's going to pass, as Max would. And it's good that Max, with all these points and having won all these races, I keep stopping, but it's good that Max is still this ultimate racer as well. And we saw that today, the two titans, absolutely brilliant, squabbling for a millimetre of road, the same millimetre of road, in very, very quick Formula One cars, flat out into Copse on a full load of fuel on tyres that aren't yet fully hot. It was just amazing. Anyway, Max naturally goes to the inside down the old pit straight, but he doesn't do it fully, and he leaves a little bit of a gap. And Lewis, being this amazingly competitive driver, goes for that gap.
And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
I have to say, I completely disagree with Christian Horner, because he's saying, and the Red Bull argument is, that is not a corner in which you can overtake. Well, I'm sorry, Christian, you obviously weren't watching Lewis when he was winning that GP2 race at Silverstone all those years ago, and at subsequent Grand Prix, Lewis has passed people there. And as we saw later in this Grand Prix, that's where Lewis took the lead from Charles Leclerc. It's not an easy place, but it is flat, and you can get through on the inside. And Max, to my eye, it looks like Max thought he'd closed the door enough, and then just focused on the corner and started to turn into the corner. And possibly it's a mirror thing when he didn't know Lewis was actually there, but it's so split second there. I don't think you can even say that, because he probably wouldn't even have had time to look in the mirrors. I don't think they can get it in peripheral vision, or maybe they can, but I doubt it. And they touched. Had he hit at a different angle, I mean, the impact was enormous. It was over 50 G, something like that, deceleration, not lateral, but deceleration, which is not pleasant, of course. But it was, yeah, I don't think Lewis should have got a penalty there. And I say
told ya,
we just had this amazing, stunning opening lap, and they'd been within an inch of one another. Lewis was down the inside. There was a gap. Yeah, he was a little bit in front, but I don't think that is the point. I think the point is that two cars can go into there. Okay, maybe Max would have had to run a little bit wide, but they can go through there. And I think, you know, Lewis is a racing driver just as much as Max is. And let's face it, we've all been saying all year, these two titans at some point are going to have this sort of incident. And we got it at Silverstone. And I think it was kind of a shame that then the stewards had to go away and do their deliberation, and we had to listen to Christian Horner and Toto Wolff giving their arguments. Toto saying, I've just sent you an email, Michael. And Michael saying, I don't receive emails during the race because I like to stay focused. What was that all about? You'd think Toto would know that. But anyway, moving swiftly on.
So, we watched them coming through, once again, Woodcote corner, flat out. Max covers the inside, and you can just see here, Lewis, once again, as Max covers the middle of the road, ushering Lewis to the outside. It looks here like, once again, Hamilton's going to have to take the outside line, lining himself up for that one, really. Once again on the outside, and probably from there, Max is going to be able to cover him off exactly the same way as he did the day before. But it's a dummy. This time it's a dummy from Hamilton, and it's quite a clever way for him to finally then sweep to the inside. Max can't cover it, it's too late. And if we pause it, coming into the corner, they're fairly well side by side. Hamilton's got a large part of his car alongside Verstappen as they come into the entry here. So it's worked for Lewis. He's on the inside. That's where he wanted to be. But he's got quite a tight corner here as well. So really close wheel to wheel. And then this is where it all goes wrong. Max still turns in. Lewis is there. He's committed really to the inside. They both really want this position. And inevitably, as we run it through, it ends in tears, contact at this point, and Verstappen is sent into a big crash out of the Grand Prix. And Hamilton possibly has damage. He did have damage, but thankfully with the red flag, he was able to fix it and carry on. Let's analyse this a lot more. This is a very polarising incident. A lot of people thinking that Hamilton should be penalised harshly. Some people thinking it was a racing incident. I'm more in the racing incident camp, to be honest. I think this is really hard racing from two drivers that were just desperate to get to the front and collided in a corner of high speed and fine margins. And if we watch it on board with Lewis, you can see Max defends the middle. Lewis is looking like he's going to go outside, and then bam, over he goes to the inside now, and he's coming through, gets towards the corner, and now Max is just trying to hang on. Lewis is turning in hard. Max is on the outside. And as we play it through, there's the touch, and that's going to be Verstappen out of the Grand Prix. Now the question is, at this point, has Lewis...
I think that's a fair interpretation of it. I think there was coming a time in this battle where Hamilton wasn't going to back down, and he obviously decided that here and now is when he took that stand. There are many factors that created it. This wasn't an isolated incident in a Grand Prix. It wasn't specifically to these circumstances in this race. There was so much backdrop to it. Going back to the races where Hamilton has had to move out the way to avoid a collision. The start of the Spanish Grand Prix on the opening lap at Barcelona is the best example of that, because Max Verstappen sent an aggressive move down the inside, and if Hamilton hadn't adjusted his line and moved out of the way, there would have been a collision there. That was where they had a step change in their dynamic, because before then we'd had, the tiny bit of contact at Imola, for example. We'd had Hamilton crowding Verstappen a little bit in Portugal, but Spain was the first time where there was potentially a bigger impact in the offing, and someone, in that case Lewis, had to take evasive action. Now, a few races later, Hamilton knows he's got a bigger points deficit, and in the sprint race at Silverstone, the first one of those that we saw, he couldn't get past Verstappen on the opening lap after losing the lead, and he watched Max drive away a couple of seconds from him and then win quite comfortably. So it wasn't desperate like Christian Horner, the Red Bull team boss, suggested, but it was a proper, I need to take a stand in this moment because this is probably my best moment to win this race. So Hamilton has decided to take that position. Now, when he does that, Max needs to be the one that says, okay, well, maybe this time I'm the one that's going to yield. Max isn't that kind of driver. He isn't actually obligated to do that either. So both of these drivers go into the corner. They're both able to avoid it. Neither chooses to do so. Max, we know that that's just the way he races. No compromises. Hamilton, it was a little bit different. So I think on this occasion, he's decided, no, Max is too aggressive. Max makes other drivers avoid an incident with him. I'm not going to be intimidated like that. I'm not going to be bullied into submission. And it's not that Hamilton deliberately crashed. I think there's a subtle and important difference, which is that this time Hamilton wasn't particularly concerned if he wasn't the one that didn't avoid the crash, if that makes sense.
Now, you mentioned the Red Bull reaction a little bit there. Just checking my notes, we had words from the Red Bull side. We heard them talking about perhaps Lewis should get a race ban for this. There were phrases like dirty driving, desperate, dangerous, and then of course Max said it was disrespectful from Lewis to be celebrating in the way that he did when his rival had ended up in hospital because of their collision. How do you think Red Bull handled this?
I think it went too far with it started to get portrayed as as if Hamilton had done it on purpose or done something ridiculous, something amateurish is the Horner called it an amateur move. He called it dangerous. He said that Lewis is so experienced, he should know you shouldn't put a wheel up the inside of someone at Copse. Well, first of all, it was more than a wheel. It wasn't like Hamilton lunged from distance. Copse isn't a braking zone. So Hamilton hasn't come from 10 car lengths back, sent one down the inside and wiped Max out. There was a point where he was fully alongside. So Red Bull and Max need to accept that. But the other part of it as well is they don't get to decide where's an overtaking spot on the circuit. We have seen passes made at Copse early in the race, middle of the race, late of the race, in various different categories, including Formula One. It's actually not that uncommon, especially when you've got a mega run out of Luffield. So the initial response, the initial anger, whatever you say in the heat of the moment, I think that's fine. The fact that it then got continued and there was no relent, there was suggestions of a race ban for Hamilton and things like this, I thought that was too far. And the thing that was the most abhorrent element of it all, and this isn't necessarily a direct result of what Red Bull were doing, and so I'm not saying that Red Bull triggered this or that they fanned the flames. The worst part of it is the fact that Hamilton was subject to racist abuse during the Grand Prix and then afterwards with people who were angry about the controversial collision and I've seen written messages, I've seen monkey emojis, the sort of overt nasty stuff that F1 likes to pretend doesn't happen in this world and is reserved for sports like football. We know that there are issues in Formula One, and an incident of this magnitude has actually brought it to the surface. So that was, of all of the reactions we saw, that was the most regrettable part.
Verstappen goes into turn one and goes past the Mercedes. He got his elbow.
Lewis Hamilton's an 8-time world champion.
Stop the cap. Stop the cap right now. Stop the cap. No bullshit, bro.
Lewis Hamilton's an 8-time world champion.
Really?
Let him pass. He's tucked up behind him, as I think he did with Bottas in, was it Sochi? Taking the advantage of the towed up alongside him, assuming that he's going to back out and that he knows he's there and he's up the inside. He felt that Lance was later on the DRS. And then, obviously Lance, for whatever reason, hasn't seen him. And he's committed to the corner and he's turned in. So I think one was expecting the other to back off, or probably both of them was expecting the other to back off. But if that were a race, Max would have been deemed to be up the inside. And therefore, the car on the outside should have given way.
Christian, but as they go in there, it's the front wheel against the rear wheel. It's very
inside.
late. It's very late. Yeah,
it's inside the left rear, the right rear. So
yeah, it's margin. It's one of those things. Like
but
you said,
as I said, I think the confusion has come earlier on where Max is expecting him to back out. He's unaware he's going for the second lap, and Lance isn't, by the looks of things, aware that he's there.
No, but I think I don't agree that he's up the side enough. So from that point of view, Max is already compromised for the second reason, because he's in the middle of the track. So he's actually going to make that sort of turn one even worse for himself. So it's not really going to be
the point that he's got there, it's too late to get out of it.
Yeah, but it should have happened before that. You don't dive and keep it until the very, very last moment, because that's when you're going to get yourself into trouble, I think.
But, you could argue contrary that, Lance has screwed up his entry onto the lap. Why is he driving down the straight with the DRS open?
Well, but he hasn't done anything wrong, I don't think. He's on the racing line anyway. It doesn't matter about the
he's
DRS
turned into
side.
a car that's up the inside.
Yes, but you've got to push it then onto the other
job.
driver as
Good
well.
job
It's
you're
a
not a
bit of
steward,
both. It's a yes. Well,
Are you